sunny spaces, smiling faces, happy places. But every sunny space holds a shadow. Behind every smile are sharp teeth. And every happy place has something sinister lurking just below the surface.
Welcome to We Saw the Devil, the podcast diving deep into the chilling realms of true crime. Join your host Robin as she unravels mysteries that have left investigators baffled and armchair sleuths obsessed. Be forewarned, dear listener. We Saw the Devil is not for the faint of heart. Our unflinching exploration will take you to the darkest corners of the psyche and through the unimaginable depths of human darkness to unearth stark secrets to the harsh light of day. Nothing will be left untouched. Are you ready? Are you sure? We saw the devil.
Oh, there she is, Miss America.
Iris, I know you have no idea, but in post-production, I totally just played the Miss America music.
Oh my god, you're so funny.
Everyone, Iris has returned to talk horror once again.
Hello everybody. Oh my god, this is so much fun. I'm so excited about these two, and then the next two are going to be it's going to be amazing.
I'm so excited. If you are new here for whatever reason, I used to have a horror podcast called All Horror back in the day. And I have known Iris since that time. And that was back in 2005. God, almost 20 years, Iris.
I know, right?
And I love horror. Iris loves horror. We talk about it all the time offline. And yeah, I thought it'd be fun to celebrate Halloween and get in the mood and do what I love most, which is talking about horror films. Invited Iris on, and I'm having a blast.
So am I. I think this is so much fun, and it's been a while that I have talked about, like horror movies like this. I mean, I've talked on other podcasts and stuff, but like with you, it's different because we okay, so our love for it first of all, and then the we're such gore hounds for another, and like we dive deep into these movies, and I love it.
Yeah, it's not some surface discussion here because Iris and I are both film lovers as a whole. So it's not just a surface discussion of plot and whatnot. So I love it, and I'm so excited to have you here.
Oh, I'm excited to be here. Like I said, it's an honor.
So for this episode, guys, the last episode we talked about Green Inferno. I keep wanting to say Green Hell. Like, stop it, Robin.
You know why. You know why.
Stop it, Robin. Green Inferno, and then also Cannibal Holocaust. And the outpouring of you guys apparently loved it. A lot of you whom I did not expect to love it, loved it, particularly Iris. Hence why the intro music for Iris this time.
Oh my god, I'm going to wear my crown next time.
Please do. Get your little tiara.
Oh, tiara nothing, girl. I wear a crown.
In that I have no doubt. So for this episode, y'all, we are going to be talking about The Conjuring 2, as well as The Nun, in particular, the lore, how they're connected, but also the demon Valak. Commentary, Iris, before we get started?
So both of these movies, excellent, and I watched them again. I mean, I didn't have to, but I did because I enjoy both of them, so I can't wait to get started on these two.
Same. I will let you. I guess we'll just get right into it. You're up first.
Okie dokie. So the first one is the second movie in our Conjuring mythos. Conveniently, is called Conjuring 2. The Enfield case. Now, I don't know if everybody knows about the Enfield poltergeist, but it is a family. I believe they were the Hobsons. They moved into what we would call public housing in Enfield, hence the Enfield poltergeist. It's basically the activity that they had in this house. This movie very far-fetchedly, I guess that's a word, documents the hauntings of the Enfield poltergeist. I assume we're doing spoilers like we did last time.
Oh yeah, full spoilers.
All right. Okay. So here we go, people. So back in 1976, our investigators, Ed and Lorraine, were invited by a film crew in Amityville to come into the Amityville house to determine if there was a demonic presence or not. Was it that presence that convinced Ronnie DeFeo to kill his entire family 2 years prior? This part is true. There was a seance. Lorraine was there. And then everything that happens after that is not. Okay. So during the seance.
It should not be said for everything that Lorraine Warren touches.
Okay. Well, let's say Ed and Lorraine existed. There you go. Okay, so during the seance, Lorraine, she's doing her thing and she is pulled into a vision where she basically walks around the house reliving the DeFeo murders, right? So she has a shotgun and she has no shotgun in her hand, but she's mimicking the racking of the round and shooting. And you see nice blood spreads, by the way. That was very nice. Nice pibs.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
As she's walking around killing. And then, while she's doing all this, she sees a demonic nun figure. She kind of sees Ed basically being impaled.
Mm-hmm.
And that, she starts screaming. And of course, Ed's worried about her, pulls her out of, what's wrong? And ta-da. A year later, we're now at the house with the Hodgsons. And this is a family. It is Mom, Peggy, and then we have Margaret, the oldest, Janet, second oldest, Billy, and I believe the other kid was Johnny. The third kid really doesn't come into play here. So you will see the girls and they are on a stoop and they get busted for smoking. And of course, what do you do when you get caught smoking? Mom comes and they call mom and they say, hey, your kids are smoking. So she was kind of angry and she was like, I've got enough going on. Please don't mess with this. As the girls are sitting there, before the teacher gets caught, she goes, oh, here's the talking board we created. Here, you can have it now. Because apparently the two girls were messing around with a Ouija board. They get home and Sissy gets sent up to, her room because she was being bad. She was smoking. She insists that wasn't her. Both sisters are in the room and the older sister, Margaret, goes, hey, what do you got there? And she goes, this is all wrong. You don't even have it right. And she's like, well, do you want to play? So they sit and they play with the Ouija board. Dun, dun, dun. And then Captain Howdy shows up and everything goes wrong. It's not Captain Howdy. And if you know who Captain Howdy is, you're one of my peeps.
Absolutely.
So basically, weird things start happening, knockings start happening. And okay, so Juan, I'm not a fan of Juan because he does a lot of jump scares and he sets you up for jump scares to the point that, if you are if you have graduated from the simple horror movie to like Martyrs,
Mm-hmm.
that's gonna make you laugh later, Robin. So if if you've got your badge, you can see when one is telegraphing, you're gonna get a jump scare. Now, if you're a beer drinker, horror fan, you're not gonna see it, and it's gonna scare you.
Yeah, I'm just gonna insert myself right here and get it out of the way. This is actually why I hate James Wan. I think there's only been like one or two films by him that he's been associated with because, like you just said, his films are all jump scares. Y'all, I'm gonna ruin the secret for you right now. If the soundtrack starts to go quiet, you're about to have a really loud jump scare. You're welcome.
Oh, there you go. And like I was saying, it's telegraphed, especially
Yes.
if you're, if you have a couple of badges and on your little horror sash, they're coming. And there's a couple of these happening at one point when the girls start feeling something weird in the room, and Janet starts sleepwalking and talking in her dreams and stuff. So, Margaret wakes her up and goes, "Dude, like wake up." But she feels something weird, like somebody's watching her, right? Because Janet kind of gets up and is staring. Guess where? The dark corner in the room, because the lights are off, because everybody should be going night. Her sister slowly turns her head and slowly reaches for the light and turns on the light, and it's just a bunch of posters there, right? But you kind of see a dark figure there. And then, of course, she sleeps with the lights on that night. And then Janet starts experiencing apportation, which is basically you start off in one place, and then she would be in bed, and then all of a sudden she's on the floor in the living room sleeping. And apportation happens during poltergeist hauntings, because basically poltergeists are considered, loud goes, and they're tricksters, they're pranksters at the beginning, and then it starts getting nasty, like mean and hitting and stuff like that. But an apportation is when, like, let's say you put your keys on your dresser and you turn around to look for your keys are not on the dresser anymore, but they are at the kitchen table now. That's an apportation. So it's basically teleporting from one place to another. So she starts experiencing that, not only with her stuff, but herself gets apported from her bedroom down to the living room, and she wakes up in the living room at one point. The things start ramping up. The night that they had, the beds were shaking, and everything was just, shit was cooking off. The little boy Billy has a stuttering issue, so they watch one of those little, again, popular with the newer movies. The little, you can see the movie, it's going round and round and round, but if you look through the slates of the thing, it's a little it's like a little movie, right? It's kind of like in the first Conjuring. This is another one. I think it was also in Insidious, something similar. What was another movie? House on Haunted Hill was another one.
I know what you're
Where
talking about. I can't remember the word for it.
I can't remember. I think it's kind of like a vision wheel or something. I don't know, something silly, but watch the movie, you'll figure it out. He has a little tent that he likes to kind of go off by himself, because he's the youngest boy. So he goes, and that's where his toys are at, and it's his little special place. Well, he sees something, one of his cars kind of rolled out of the tent, and then he rolls it back in. And as he's getting closer, again, just like Robin says, music goes down. You can hear him go, "Hello?" And then it's old man Wilkins going, "Boo!" Jump scare. So, of course,
Yep.
the family all, they're like, "Rah!" And they all go down to their neighbors, Nottingham's. Of course, the guy goes, "Well, if you think there's somebody in the house, we need to go see." So he goes in and see, and they didn't show this in the movie. And I think it would have been great to show, because this is what happened for real versus what happened in the movie. Like in for reals, as he's walking up the stairs and through the kitchen and everything, looking for whoever might be in the house, the whole time knocks on the wall are following him everywhere as he goes. But he can't find anything, and they don't show that in the movie. And then, of course, the cops show up, and the cops go in, and they're like, "So you got a ghost?" And the cops are like, "What are we supposed to do?" And they're like, "Well, we just want you to look at the place, make sure we're not cracked." I'm like, "Ugh, okay." So they walk in. The cops, for realsies, experienced quite a few things. They heard the knocking. They saw marbles being thrown around. One particular marble, one of the cops, the lady cop, saw a marble thrown and it landed. But physics, inertia would make the marble continue to roll. It just like bloop, stopped. And she's like, "Whoa." And then
Not a
they
good
saw,
sign.
no, not a good sign. And then they saw a chair move like a foot away from the wall in the kitchen. Now in the movie, it's the chair goes from the hall, makes a turn, goes into the kitchen. Interesting. The cops are like, "Okay, yeah, see you. Peace out. Bye." And of course, Peggy is left like, "What the fuck? What am I?" how I can't fix this. And they spend the night at the Nottinghams. She gets to the point where it's like either I move out and they let me move out, or I'm going to go to the press. And that's what she does. She goes to the press. And as Janet is starting to show more and more, things are being possessed more. Like Bill Wilkins is an old man that used to live there in that house. He died in the living room on a chair of a hemorrhage. That's how the old man died. And that's what she was saying in a gravelly voice. Now the Warrens all of a sudden get inserted in this because the church goes, "There's some shit going down in London, in England, and we need you guys to go check it out." Personally, I don't think that's how it went, but it's James Wan. They go over to London, and while this is going on, the mom, Peggy, has contacted the Daily Mirror. It's basically a rag sheet. It's kind of like, the Sun here in the United States, or the National Enquirer or something like that. That's basically what it's like. She basically contacted them and say, "Hey, I've got weird shit going in my house. I am trying to contact, the housing council. They're not letting me move. I don't know. I don't know what else to do. Can you guys help?" So this is what is shown in the film, and this is what a lot of the I'm going to call it lore versus what happened for real. A lot of the lore has this happening, but what happened for real was one of the reporters said, "So why don't you just move?" And she's like, "Why? This is the stablest home that my kids have had. Why would I want to move them?" So that's what happened for real. So no, she was not looking to get out of housing like it's represented in the movie. And these people come, and here we get one of the greatest, fabulous characters of all lore, Maurice Gross. Parapsychologist extraordinaire. And the way that Maurice is portrayed, he has, he's got he's balding in the middle, has these great mutton chops, and a mustache to boot. And if you look up the picture of Maurice Gross, it's exactly what he looks like. Another person that we have that shows up is Anita Gregory, and she and Maurice are both from the Society for Psychical Research. And basically, they were Ghostbusters. That's basically what they were. But they did it more from the skeptical side. So they would try to prove it wrong, like, "Oh, you're faking it." So these guys show up along with a news reporter, and they show up, they start looking into what's going on. They record the very first time you hear Bill Wilkinson, they record him. Basically, Janet is being possessed by Bill Wilkinson, and she's like, "I want everybody out of the house. This is my house. Get out." Okay, so Ed and Lorraine come in to consult with the other two paranormal investigators, Maurice and Anita. And they come in and they start talking with Janet. They're talking with the mom, trying to see what's going on. Lorraine can't feel anything. So we all know that Lorraine is a medium, and as soon as she walks in a place, she's like, "Oh, this place feels demonic." Well, she didn't feel that. So, this kind of has her a little questioning a few things, right? So, to test Janet, what they do is they sit her down and they tell her, "Okay, we're going to make sure that it's not you pretending to be Bill Wilkinson. So here's a glass of water. I want you to put the water in your mouth, and then you're going to hold the water in your mouth, and then we're going to talk to Bill Wilkins." So the kid goes through all that. They push record, and Ed starts, "Hey, Bill, who are you? Are you here?" And nothing. They go to Janet. "So what's the deal with Bill?" And she says, "Well, she wants you guys to turn your back because he doesn't want to look at your faces while he's talking." And they're like, "All right." So they turn around. She, puts water in her mouth, and Bill shows up. And Ed's like, "So do you know who I am?" He's like, "Eddie, Edward." And so they're asking him questions. Well, who are you? How'd you die? Blah, blah, blah. And he starts saying something of help it leave. And he just starts saying, help it leave, help it leave. And that's the end of that. So they turn around and they see Janet basically spitting water back into the glass. Again, they just can't get a read. Everything that happens when somebody is not in the room. So, they're starting to doubt things. And Lorraine says, this place just feels so empty, so sad. She goes, maybe that's why I can't get a read on anything. Maybe that's it. It's just sad little place. And so they start fixing things for the ladies, for Peggy. And at one point we get Ed singing. And oh, here's another thing. So the guy Patrick Wilson who plays Ed, how would you describe him, Robin? Patrick Wilson.
He looks moist.
You still believe that?
He looks moist in anything that he plays. That is a moist man. Oh yeah. He was amazing in Hard Candy, but moist.
Moist. There you go. Okay, so you still believe that. Okay. 10 years ago, you said the very same thing.
Did I really?
Yes, you said he was moist.
Oh, he really is. He's only gotten moister with age.
That's why I had to stop and ask. Well, anyway. So he does a little sing-along thing trying to bring music back into the house because apparently the husband, when he left, he literally took all the music out of the house because he took all the records. So at one point, he goes downstairs because there's a leak downstairs in the basement. So he goes, of course, into the scary basement. It's full of water. And he's like, oh, the leak's coming from there behind a bulkhead and all this other stuff. So he has to go around the back. And of course, Peggy can't see him anymore. And he's trying to fix something. And then something pulls Peggy into the water. And of course, she's being drowned. And Ed comes around and he's like, "Oh my God, Peggy!" and pulls her out of the water, and she has a bite mark on her arm.
Not a good sign.
Yeah, not a good sign. And the bite mark has a missing tooth. Ed's looking at her arm and then looks into the water and finds a partial in the water that has the tooth that's missing. So he's like, So as all this is going on, of course, then they start hearing all this crash, boom, fa la la upstairs, and they run upstairs and they find the kitchen has just been torn the fuck up. And they're like, oh my God. And they're looking at Janet, and Janet's like, it was Bill. In comes Anita Gregory, and she's like, so I have video evidence that's not Bill. It's Janet wrecking the place on purpose. And they do see that. And this is basically when Ed and Lorraine go, well, peace out. We're done. This ain't for reals. We need real demons. And Lorraine says they're not here, so we're out. So, of course, they keep going. They go back to the train. And as they're in the train, Lorraine's like, there's just something just isn't right. It's not right. Somehow Ed gets this bright idea to play 2 tapes at the same time. And when you play the tapes at the same time and you start them both at the same time, one says, help me, it won't let me out. And then they're like, oh my God, we got to get back to the house. And they go back to the house, and then Janet has been possessed and looks like she's going to commit suicide because she's been apportated into a room that nobody can get into. Nobody can get into the house. Ed ends up going through downstairs into the house. Lorraine is like, because what had happened was when they were back in the States, Ed had a dream and had to paint this dream. he kept seeing this thing, and lo and behold, it's a nun with scary eyes, which is the same nun that Lorraine had seen when she was in Amityville.
Terrifying.
Terrifying. And not only that, but when Lorraine was home, she falls into like a trance, starts writing in her Bible something, and of course they don't show you what she writes in the Bible. And her daughter obviously also has some sort of psychic powers, because or mediumship, I should say, because she's like, Mom, because she saw something move through the hallway. So she goes and looks, and she goes, Mom, what is that? And of course it's Vlog at the end. And she is still in this trance. And this is probably one of the best. Of course, you see this coming, but it's the best part of this movie is Lorraine standing there, and she's at the picture, and the eyes in the picture that Ed has drawn kind of light up, and then you see hands come out from behind the frame of the picture, and it runs at her.
Classic.
So,
Classic.
that was good. That was good. So of course Lorraine's had all this in her head, right? And she's trying to figure out, we needed to have power over it. We need to learn its name, because that's apparently how you have, according to the Catholic Church, that's how you have power over demons, is if you know their name. So while Ed's trying to get in there, Lorraine's freaking out because she's like seeing this vision of Valak killing Ed. So she's like freaking out about the whole thing. And then she remembers she knows the name because it's in her Bible. So she goes and Valak. So she runs up the stairs. Ed has Janet by her waist because she was getting ready to jump out onto a stump that would kill her. But Ed has her and is grabbing onto the curtains, I believe. And of course, in classic Hollywood style, each the curtain rod holder things are popping off. And you see Valak in the room also, and Lorraine, and that thing's fighting, and she finally says its name and has dominion over it and sends it away in time to grab her husband, who's also holding a child, and she is strong enough to bring them back into from falling out the window. And then everybody kind of like, yay, we saved the day, and Janet is freed from her possession. Lorraine pulls Ed to safety, and when they return home, Ed adds the little crooked man Zoe trope. That's what it's called.
Yes, thank you.
Oh my god, it
Good
just popped into my
Lord.
head.
Love it when that happens.
Oh my god. Okay, so the Zoe trope toy, and sits it next to April Perron's music box, which is from the first Conjuring movie, and in the background you can see Annabelle. Now, go back to the movie. At this point of the movie, stop your frame and look into the glass where Annabelle is at, and you can see the outline of the nun. Chef kiss right there. And that's the end of that movie. Whew, that's a lot. So, Robin, give me your thoughts on this.
It's you know, I felt like it was compared to The Nun, I feel like the Conjuring 2 was a little bit more formulaic.
Mhm.
All James Wan's films are pretty formulaic and classical horror tropes. Rocking chairs, things creaking, moving around, doors shutting, closets, the black space, right? Like it's all purely formulaic for the most part.
Mhm.
I was reading about James Wan and how he picked a nun to begin with. And he actually said that he went back and added the nun in post production in The Conjuring
Oh,
2. Yep, he said, quote, I had a strong outlook on the whole movie, but the one thing I wasn't quite sure of was the design of the demon character. I felt like I was still discovering it. And this is after the film wrapped. The nun
damn.
was actually not in the movie at the time that they wrapped it. And he said, and believe it or not, I always knew that I was going to do additional photography. So I was saving it because I was hoping I'd discover what that thing would look like as I was putting the movie together in post production. So the nun was actually added after the movie itself was filmed.
That's
And
pretty amazing.
Pretty incredible. I was about to say, the pretty incredible that it was added, and it fits so perfectly. And Maurice is a nice tie-in as well. Was not expecting that at all, to be honest with you.
True. So, Maurice was actually part of the investigation, if not the investigator, for the Enfield poltergeist.
Mhm.
He and another guy by the name of Paddington Lionheart. If that's not English name, I don't know what
Mhm.
is. So they were the two skeptics that had come in, and Lionheart was also a medium, and he was saying that there was, and they brought in another couple that was a medium, and this couple were saying that there was 10 ghosts in the house
Jesus.
or spirits, and one of the spirits was a little kid, another one was this Bill Wilkins, and another was an old man by the name of Joe. And these were people that Janet would basically be possessed with, I guess you could say, and would talk. When she started this thing out, though, they also had brought in a ventriloquist, and I mean, I'm not being dodgy here, but at the time, dental program in England was not at its best, and the child did have, you know, dental issues. She had a
Yeah.
buck tooth and stuff like that. It would be kind of hard to tell if the child was doing some sort of ventriloquism because
Mhm.
Maurice would say that most of the time when the child was talking and you were in the room with the child, it didn't sound like it was coming from her, but from behind her.
Interesting.
So they brought this ventriloquist in, this master ventriloquist, and he's like, "Yeah, no, that's not happening that way. Bye. I don't want to spend any more time in this house." Uh, so yeah, and also the two mediums that had come in, the couple had shit happen to them too, and they were like, "Peace out, dude. We're not dealing with this stuff. This is just too much." The family did not have any religious beliefs to say, and the Church of England is extremely ecumenical, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
So that's why they never turned to a church, but turned to the press because they felt, well, the cops aren't going to help us, the housing authority isn't going to help us, then maybe the press can.
Yeah.
Or, somebody will see something that will say, hey, I can come and help you fix this issue. But sorry, didn't mean to interrupt your thoughts.
No, no, no. That's fascinating. I thought it was a really good movie overall. I think that I just have such a I don't think it's as good as The Nun, which we can discuss after I cover The Nun, but I think it was a good film. I just feel like it relied too heavily on tropes and then the jump scares. I feel like jump scares are okay if they are unexpected, but as you said, he telegraphs them like a mile away to the point where I'm watching the movie and then it starts to happen. I'm like, oh, fuck, here we go. And I grab my remote and turn it down. And then, like, after the big boom, of whatever of sound effect, I turn it back up. And so that's pretty much like my whole experience with James Wan films. It wasn't as bad as The Conjuring 1,
Oh, God.
but that film is a hot mess. But yeah, I liked it, and the tie-in to The Nun too. Now here's the thing: I saw The Conjuring 2, and then I saw The Nun way, 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 way later. So I actually didn't even realize the connections.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I didn't even realize that there was even a connection between the two. When I saw The Nun originally, I thought, okay, I thought like all of this stuff was basically, I thought Insidious was the only franchise that was actually connected, and then I thought that The Conjuring was just random individual cases about the Warrens. That's kind of like how I saw
Okay.
everything, and I was totally wrong, obviously.
Yeah, especially with this one because the Warrens inserted themselves basically in this investigation because the Amityville investigation was kind of losing momentum,
Yes.
and so was the Perron. So they inserted themselves in this to remain relevant, right, in the
Hmm.
in the paranormal circles, and they were there for 24 hours, and that was it.
Really,
24
I wasn't
hours.
aware of that.
Yeah, because once they figured out that everything that Maurice had done and everything that was being given to them as like this is how it's happening and what's happening, Lorraine never felt anything in that house, so therefore they're like, meh.
That makes sense.
This isn't fantastical enough for us.
And
So
it's also interesting too, is like the Warrens themselves, like I can't think of too any bigger charlatans in my opinion, just as like, real life human beings. Like I actually truly personally believe that they found a money-making scheme that they pretty much milled. I forgot which case was it, Iris, if you recall which case it was of theirs where the homeowners later came out and said that Ed and Lorraine tried to pressure them into saying that crazy shit happened. Was that Amityville?
that was Amityville. And
Yeah.
that was due to the fact that the book, okay, so the lawyer who wrote the book, the person who wrote the book was a lawyer who wasn't even involved in any of this. He was the one with Ed and Lorraine that started pressuring the Lutzes to tell them what had happened. And then, of course, it was inflated
Mhm. Mhm.
and just, kind of, they took creative license, let's say.
Mhm. Mhm.
And of course, you have the guy who, oh my God, he was the nemesis of the Warrens. And you see that also in this movie. He's there on a talk show, and this guy goes, you guys are full of hogwash. This is stupid. And you guys are charlatans, basically.
I do personally believe that they are in real life. However, side note, if any of you guys are into reading, have you read In a Dark Place, Iris?
No, not yet. And is that the Perron one?
That's the Snedeker
Oh,
family.
Snedeker.
It's the one that The Haunting in Connecticut is based on, the film.
Oh, yeah,
Um
yeah, yeah.
it is single-handedly the most nothing scares me, you guys, except for like demonic type of stuff, but like In a Dark Place is single-handedly, in my opinion, the best horror book ever written. Like, fuck you, Stephen King, move over. You're like, I don't even like Stephen King that much. I'm just gonna admit it. I know that's sacrilegious to a lot of people, and I apologize if I hurt your feelings. But like In a
I'm
Dark
hanging
Place
up now.
was
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
In a Dark Place was absolutely terrifying. It's a terrifying book. And
Hmm.
like back in the day, it was written by Ray Garton. And back in the day, like it said Ray Garton and blah blah blah. I actually borrowed a copy from a friend of mine. The book is now worth like $6,000. But
Holy fuck, dude! Did you keep the
yeah.
book?
No, I gave it back. When I borrowed it from him, it was worth like $800, and he was like, "If you put one crease on a page, I will end you." Um, so I read it, and it was crazy. But like since then, it's now available everywhere. Amazon has it, I think, for like $13, and now it has Ed and Lorraine Warren as the authors, as the primary authors, and Ray Garton is like down the bottom, like corner of the book cover. You can barely see his name, even though he's the one who actually wrote the book.
Right. And when this got made into a movie, Ray and the family received, I think, a total of I think it was like $15,000, and that was it.
Yeah. Of course, the Warrens
And
are gonna find a way.
right, and then well, you've read the book, and I'm sure you've
Mhm.
seen the movie.
Mhm. Mhm.
Nothing like it at all, is it?
Not even close.
Mhm.
But the book is actually really, really, really good. Um, but yeah, the Warrens, just I have such a distaste for them as human beings that it's really hard for me, even though I love the cast. Patrick Wilson may be moist, but he does do a good job. What's her name? Vera Farmiga.
Mhm. Yeah.
Vera Farmiga does an impeccable job. Like I actually love her as an actress. I loved her on shit, what was the one show that she was on?
The Bates Motel.
Bates Motel, thank you. She was amazing on Bates Motel.
Oh, yeah, I know. She is great.
She's a fantastic actress. It's really hard for me to stomach anything that's based on loosely the Warrens. And I don't think that The Conjuring 2 had the technical merit that The Nun did.
No, it does not. And to say based, loosely based, I mean loosely based. But yeah, no, I have a tendency to agree with you on this one. Well, I'm sorry, unless you had anything else to say.
That's pretty much it. If I had to score The Conjuring 2, say out of 5, like 5 stars. Me personally, I would give it like a 2.
2? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm almost there. I'm at a 3. But I think a lot of it is because I know the real history behind the Enfield poltergeist and how it all happened and why. It really surprises me that they brought this into the Conjuring lore instead
Mhm.
of, like, let's say, a haunting in Connecticut, because the Warrens were literally there for 24 hours. Done.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder why they didn't. I don't remember what year. I saw the Haunting in Connecticut when it came out. I saw it in theaters actually. But yeah, I remember like I liked it. I liked it okay. But another thing too is James Wan directed The Conjuring 2, right?
Yes, he did. He wrote it and directed.
Oh, he did not direct The Nun.
No, no, but he was part of this screenplay, I believe.
Screenplay and he produced it. But like in
Yeah,
my
right.
mind, I feel like producing is nothing but like fundraising.
But yeah, I mean, you're the showrunner. That's basically what you
Yeah.
are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I just it's typical James Wan, I feel.
hmm And I'll agree with you there. I think I'd probably give it a 3, like I said, but mostly because I know a lot of the history, and again, surprised that they went here because they went here, and kind of like how we were talking earlier today. Unless you read Latin and you have these books, and these books are somewhere in the Vatican stored away, there's not a lot of information about who Valak is besides what is general knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, literally the same. I have done hours of research attempted, and there's nothing, y'all. There is absolutely nothing other than a couple passages.
So this sets you up to be able to create the lore behind Valak in whatever way you want it,
Hmm.
right? So, and also the lore of Ed and Lorraine being inserted into this movie. Because now you can introduce a new character, a demonic character, and you can basically plot out the movie the way you want it. Because, of course, this is based on true events. So anytime I see that a movie is based on true events, uh, the true event that I'm thinking is like, what? There was two people and they had this issue. That's your true event, right?
It's
Kind of like
true.
with the cocaine bear. What? That there was a bear involved. That's the true
Right?
event.
And I feel like too, because like Lorraine has her powers and the premonitions and
Mhm.
stuff like that. It really kind of is open season for all of the different ways that you can connect all of this.
It is, and the way that the setup that was done, and the introduction of how you were going to move this awesome character, this great character of the nun, and how you're going to move it forward, and how you are
Mhm.
going to make it come out of where it was
Mhm.
amazing. Because I can't remember if it's in the first movie or the third movie. No, it's the very first one in The Conjuring, where the Perron mother goes and sits through a lecture of Ed and Lorraine before she goes up to them like, "My house is fucked up. Can you please come?" Uh, it is Thoreau. It is Frenchie who is being the one that is being exercised.
Yes.
So I think that is beautiful in itself. My love for these movies is more of the lore than the movies themselves. Besides, The Nun. And I can't wait to see the second one. But yeah, it would be a 3 for me.
That's fair, I think. All right. Do you want to talk about The Nun?
Please.
Okay, so admittedly, I loved The Nun. I love The Nun, and we will talk more about that so I can gush all over it after. The Nun came out in 2018, and it is, in fact, as you can probably tell at this point, part of the Conjuring universe. It was directed by Corin Hardy and produced by James Wan. So Is this the first one? This is the first one that's in the franchise that's not directed by James Wan, right?
I believe so.
Thank God for that. So it serves as kind of a prequel to the other movies in the franchise, in particular Conjuring 2, the one that Iris just talked about. So it delves a little bit into the backstory of the nun or Valak, and it's good stuff. I think it is just brilliant, actually, what they did here. So that being said, in Sophia voice, picture it, Romania, 1952. You
What?
have
Romania?
Romania, not Sicily. Sorry, you guys. So the film opens, right?
Mhm.
A troubled young nun, Sister Victoria, she's standing on the edge of a window and placing a noose around her neck. And it's all dark and gothic. And she's looking back to see a faded figure slowly approaching down a long, dark corridor. Crucifixes start to like slowly rotate upside down. She prays for forgiveness and then leaps. But instead of the film showing her body fall and then her neck snap, the camera actually like lingers inside the tower to watch the rope like slack and then tighten. And then it slowly pushes to see a demon's face in the window reflection. And I was like, hot fucking damn, I think I came. Because that is one of the best intros to a horror film that I have seen in a long, long time. And I saw The Conjuring 1, I saw The Conjuring 2. I had absolutely just zero, I'm talking dollar bin expectations for this film. And with that intro, I was like, oh shit, this is going to be great. And it really has kind of a hammer horror feel to it
Does.
all throughout the whole thing. The entire time I watched this movie, I had the biggest smile on my face. So I ain't right, I know. I ain't right. So naturally, the Vatican ends up learning about this incident and it sends Father Burke, a priest who specializes in investigating supernatural, paranormal, whatever occurrences, to look into it. And he's accompanied by Sister Irene, a novitiate, and we don't really know like who she is or what she is. She just kind of looks like Thaisa Farmiga is actually Vera Farmiga, the actress who plays Lorraine. That's actually her in real life little sister. They look almost nothing alike, but it's kind of interesting and I think a really cool casting choice for that.
I can explain why it was done too.
Oh, really? Do you want to do it now or later?
I could do it now if you'd like.
Yeah, please.
So, in Annabelle, we find out that Lorraine is a descendant of Saint Lucy. Well, Sister Irene is also a descendant of Saint Lucy. So there is the tie-in of why they used the sisters together.
That
Now,
is so cool.
Saint Lucy is basically the patron saint of the blind, and she was venerated as a saint because of how she died as a martyr. Santa Lucia, she is a healer, so that's why they have both of the sisters because they're trying to show some familial way of tying this in, but also in real life, trying to show two women that kind of look like each other, both dealt with the same ugliness. So I think that was pretty cool.
That's actually really cool. I actually really appreciate that.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. So they embark, and it's kind of like little moments of humor as they head there. Sister Irene, deer in headlights. I mean, she really looks young. So when they arrive at the abbey, they are greeted by Frenchie. He's a local villager, and he's the one who found Sister Victoria's body. Now they also find a mysterious key on her corpse, and they pocket it for safekeeping. It's kind of like the dun, 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 dun moment of this is definitely going to be important later.
Right? But hey,
So,
it wasn't written by James Wan or anything.
right, exactly. So, Frenchie ends up helping them transport the body to the village because the abbey itself is located kind of like in a remote and isolated area, exactly where you'd think an abbey would be located in 1952 Romania, right? Like
Mhm.
over the valley through the woods, like in the creepy dark forest, blah blah blah. And the villagers who greet them are like kind of like not feeling it. They are not really fans of them being there, and they basically warned them about the evil that's at the abbey haunting it. They arrive finally at the abbey, and they meet the creepy as fuck abbess. She tells them that the nuns observe silence during the night, so they have to return the next day. But because the abbey is cloistered, only Sister Irene can enter. So during the night, our dear friend Burke is actually buried alive in the graveyard, obviously by something. Something doesn't want him there. Obviously, it's the nun.
Yeah.
And how did she find this out? Because of all of the death bells. And that was so cool. It's just like they're all going off because there's a huge forest cemetery, and then all the bells are just like going off, and that's how she actually ends up finding him.
But how? How did she find him? She focuses and she uses her powers, and it floods out all of the other bells except for the one that he's at.
Yes, which is very important because again, powers, connection that will be that you'll be finding later on. Or Iris already talked about it. So
Yep.
Father Burke, Sister Irene, and Frenchie, Frenchie kind of disappears a little bit, but they do begin their investigation. I'm not going scene by scene here, but they do uncover some information about the Abbey's history. They learn that the Abbey was built on the ruins of a castle from the Dark Ages. I mean, how much creepier can you get?
Right? Some more hammer.
Some more hammer horror. And it was owned by the evil Duke of St. Carta. Apparently, said Duke was a powerful aristocrat. Widely known, he was obsessed with the demonology and the occult. He summoned a demon through a rift in the catacombs underneath the abbey. And who was that demon, Iris?
Block.
It was. That's true. Christian knights ended up killing him, but before they sealed the cellar rift, they sealed it with a vial of blood. Iris, whose blood was it?
With the blood of Christ, of course.
Of course it was the blood of Jesus Christ.
Because it compels you.
Right? This is officially a crossover episode right now. Strange and terrifying events begin to occur, and our little trio here, they realize that they're facing a malevolent force. And come to find out that bombs from World War II had hit nearby and actually reopened the rift. Not only that, but the abbess was not at all what she had seemed. The real abbess had been dead the entire time. She didn't even exist. Who was the abbess, Iris?
Block.
Yes, fucking terrifying. And the nuns have been praying in shifts in an attempt to keep the evil at bay. More on these nuns in a moment. Now, as they delve deeper into this mystery, which I would be shitting my pants. I don't know how they were just like, cool, walking around this hammer horror castle, people going down dark hallways by themselves and all of this with a candlelight. Yeah. They discover that Sister Victoria, the nun from the opening, threw herself off of the tower because she was the last nun in the abbey and she was about to be possessed. All of this happens. The climax of the film, basically the entire film is them investigating, finding this information, them walking through, and oh my God, y'all, the shots in this film are so beautiful. There's one in particular that is Thaisa Farmiga. She's walking down outside stairs and you see the moon and the stars and it's all foggy. And it's just like, that is horror cinema that I haven't seen since like Vincent Price. You know what I mean?
I know.
It was just so fucking, like, it made my heart pitter patter. Like, that is my love language. I swear to God. But yeah, so the climax of the film happens in the catacombs beneath the abbey. Father Burke and Sister Irene, they confront Valak, and there's this huge battle. And they manage to weaken it by revealing its true name. And that actually allows them to banish it back to hell temporarily with the help of the other nuns who were there. Valak is beaten back a little bit. And Sister Irene then learns, and I then learned because I had no fucking idea and didn't see this one coming, none of the nuns that were there were real.
Right. They were all visions.
They were all visions. All visions. In fact, again, no one had been living in the abbey since Sister Victoria had committed suicide. She was the final girl there. Not in the good kind of final girl.
No.
But Valak is, you think that he's been defeated, but nope. But wait, there's more. So in
What?
the end, I know. In the end, our quirky little trio, they realize that they need Christ's blood to banish Valak once again. And where's Christ's blood? Victoria's key unlocks it naturally.
Mm-hmm.
And so they take the key, they go get it, they retrieve the vial. I thought this was actually kind of a nice touch. She asks Burke to elevate her status to a professed nun, which he
Mm-hmm.
does, because it's the only way. It's what makes her words hold power. So, like how an ordained priest has to be the one to give the rites of exorcism, so same thing with a professed nun. Another big battle occurs down in the catacombs in the tunnel. She's briefly possessed, but Frenchie smears the blood of Christ on her face, casting the demon out. He's not gone, but wait, there's more. Valak starts to drown her in a flood. The chamber has flooded, and it's all dramatic. And Valak starts to drown her, and just as you think our heroine is about to perish, she actually spits Christ's blood into his face when he's on top of her. The nun's on top of her, and it banishes Valak just as the rift is sealed. Because when Frenchie had put all the blood of Christ all over her face, she actually sipped a little. She took a little sip,
Apparently.
kept some in her mouth. And then, yeah, but she's all passed out. And Frenchie actually ends up resuscitating her and then reveals that his real name is what, Iris?
Maurice Thoreau.
Maurice from The Conjuring 2. And then the very last scenes of the film, it flashed forwards 20 years later, so 1972, and there's a university lecture in Wakefield, Massachusetts. Ed and Lorraine Warren are presenting footage of them exorcising a demon from a 20-year-old Maurice. Maurice grabs Lorraine, and she then has a vision of Ed dying, which Iris has already talked about. And that actually initiated the Ed and Lorraine Warren's investigation of the Perone farmhouse.
Right. You know what? This is so good. Oh.
It was so good. It was just so good. Every piece of this film, I absolutely loved it. Were there jump scares? A fuck ton. There are a literal metric fuck ton of jump scares in this movie. But I feel like it was done correctly. There was so much more going for it, right? The setting, it was beautiful. I felt like I was in a Gothic castle in the Middle Ages. You know, I felt like Dracula was going to come out somewhere at some point. It is beautiful.
It needed Christopher Lee. It's like Christopher Lee is going to walk out of the shadows.
Yes, it really did. There's a lot that can be left open for creating lore, right, to connect these stories and so forth. So this movie, The Nun, was actually inspired by the 1986 Sean Connery film, The Name of the Rose, also a book by an Italian author as well. So in that movie, so similar. The official synopsis is a fictional friar, William Baskerville, Sean Connery, and his apprentice, a young Christian Slater, travel to a Benedictine abbey in northern Italy to investigate the mysterious death of a famous monk. The last person who talked to the monk is found dead in a vat of pig blood. Inhabitants of the monastery fear that the devil is behind the murders. A 90% carbon copy. But I think the way they did it was just so fucking brilliant.
It is. It's extremely atmospheric.
Oh, it is. I love me a good atmospheric film. So we do learn more about Valak in The Nun. Valak was an angel who was rejected by God and sent to hell, also known as the Marquis of Snakes. And in demonology, the Lesser Key of Solomon is the book.
You could find it at your local bookstore.
Can you?
Yeah, you know, it's like the Necronomicon. It's not real.
Right. So
It's
in the
telling
lesser oh damn, people are gonna start listening to this and try to summon it. Hey.
Oh, whoa. On
Good
cue.
lord. She scared the shit out of me.
You got to leave that in.
Oh my god, I will. That was terrifying. So in the Lesser Book of Solomon, it's basically a book that details all the demons, all of the rankings, the hierarchy of hell, more or less, right? So
Yeah.
in the book, Valak is actually a real demon that's listed in this book, and Valak is typically described as a demon who has the ability to take on the form of a child with angel wings, and the child is riding on a two-headed dragon. And Valak is often associated with the power of locating treasures and discovering hidden secrets. Also known for having knowledge of various like natural and occult sciences. So Valak is actually a very real, air quotes, really hard on real demon, and I really do appreciate the fact that they added that lore in. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
I think it's fascinating. It makes it infinitely creepier and scarier to me because here's the thing, y'all. I don't believe in any of this shit, yet it scares the holy fuck out of me. And
Just in
I
case.
just in case, there's always got to be that clause, right? Like, I'd be the ass in the military. Like, if I ever came into a firefight, I'd be praying, even though I'm like the world's most militant atheist. Um, just in case, y'all cover the bases. But yeah, I think that's absolutely fascinating. And I love what they did too. Subverting religious iconography is like, that is my thing, you know? So taking the nun, someone that's supposed to be holy and pure, and making that the face of a demon and having this entire film take place in a religious institution in an abbey, a sacred place. I just think it was just chef's kiss all the way around. I absolutely loved it. I also love the fact that you can definitely see classic horror for people who are just horror fanatics or film buffs. You can 100% see elements of Black Narcissus, Alfred Hitchcock's
Yes.
Vertigo, The Exorcist, The Omen, and it's just you can see kind of like throwbacks to all of these films. You know what I mean? Especially visually in the opening scene. The opening scene as a whole was just God.
That was really, really well done. Very well done.
Just like Patrick Wilson, it made me moist.
Oh
um
God.
Kidding. Kind of, not really.
Oh my God. Drinking
Um
game, people. How many times does she call him moist?
so good. My only critique, and I only have one critique, is that it was a little too jump scary at times. And the thing about it is that the jump scares don't scare me because I see them coming from a mile away. I just find it a cheap scare. And this film, with the sets, the effects, the atmosphere, they didn't need any of that shit.
Mm-mm. Completely agree.
Yeah, like, what is scarier than a long, dark, foggy hallway and the fucking nun slowly coming towards you? You know? And it's just the fact that I think they did such a good job of building the background of it being on a castle in the dark ages, and the guy was into demonology and the occult, and they kind of built up, and at least for me, why I like it so much is that, you know, your brain fills in the gaps. And I think
Yes.
they gave us so much source material to work with and so much information that a lot of the scares are like self-created. You know, when we're
Yeah.
sitting there thinking and what we imagined and dark ages Abbey would be with demons, and you know, a lot of the scares our minds fill it in. And so for me, this was just a total win. A total win.
I completely love this movie. And one of the reasons why I love this movie is a lot that you were saying. The atmosphere, the cinematography. It is something that, we kids that grew up on the Hammer films and the classic Universal monsters,
Mhm.
we we miss this, right? We miss that atmosphere of the fog, in the out in the meadow with the moon. It's kind of that one part where she is walking through the castle with the
Oh,
lantern.
yes.
Oh, Jesus, that's beautiful. And not only that, but Frenchie, when he is walking through the cemetery and
Mm-hmm.
the nun that they had just buried falls from the tree. Oh, that was just beautiful. Now, we knew that that was coming because of the music and the way things were coming, the
Yep.
way things were moving, but the way he sits there, when he's laying there with this thing and it falls on top of him and of course it growls at him and he just pushes it off, then it's gone. And I thought it was cute that he grabs the biggest cross out there in the cemetery. He goes, "This is mine."
I love too the little elements of comedy that they have. Like when they meet
Mhm.
Frenchie, he what does he say? He's like upset husband or father.
Yeah, right. Upset husband or father.
Yeah. Like there are
And they're
these little moments, and I feel like Frenchie was definitely like there for the comic relief, you know?
he
Um,
was.
lighten the
Which
mood.
is yeah, okay, Light in the Mood, which is again a tie to Hammer films, right?
Mhm.
Peter Lorre, that's what he was in these films, right? He
Yes.
was that comedic element. So you have all these things, and then you have the lore that you are creating, which I think, like you were saying, is just amazing because you're taking elements that are sacred for this religion and twisting it and turning them around. Just like
Mhm.
you take the crucifix and you turn it around, right? So it was just very well done. That it takes place in Romania, yeah, you got your tropes, but they work. It's not forced down your throat like it is with the first Conjuring movie, which is to me is a lifetime movie with jump scares.
Yes, thank you. That is a great way to describe it. And it's just such a there's just so much I don't know, I feel like that's for some reason I thought James Wan directed The Nun as well. And it
Mm-mm.
wasn't until doing this episode with you that I realized that it wasn't James Wan, which made me realize, holy shit, maybe he's a better writer than he is filmmaker, first of all, director, but just the
He had help.
care he definitely had help. And I'd be curious, I didn't have time or I just now actually thought of it of checking the Corin Hardy's quotes on the film and what kind of his vision was for it because just so much respect and so many throwbacks to like classic Universal and Hammer films. And I mean, there were times where I just like was almost breathless at how beautiful it was. And I know you haven't seen it yet, Iris, but The Voyage of Demeter has a lot of those same moments too.
Oh, see, that's
Um,
beautiful.
it's like The Voyage of Demeter and then The Nun are like the only two in the last 10 years that I can even think of that actually like really actually do that.
Nice. Nice. And now here's something interesting in this whole thing that we're talking about directors, and I'm like, oh well, fuck, who directed The Nun too? The guy who directs The Devil Made Me Do It and The Curse of the Llorona is Michael Chavez, and he is also the director for The Nun too. So again, that kind of makes me happy about the whole thing. The writing was not done by Juan itself, but I don't think he has anything to do with this besides producing. So that'll be interesting to
Oh,
see
really?
where this goes.
Interesting.
Because yeah, um, because Frenchie, it seems like, is at the Abbey where the nun is at. So
Yes.
it's kind of interesting. I am extremely excited. I'm gonna go see this in the big screen because a movie like this deserves that.
Absolutely.
So
I'm gonna
yeah.
wait for you to see it because I want to know if it's the same like flavor of
Okay,
filmmaking.
okay. So and like we were both saying, this movie has a lot to give. Don't watch it with, well, the Conjuring movies all suck, so this one's gonna suck too. Don't watch it like that.
Mm-mm.
This is nothing like Annabelle. This is nothing like the Conjuring movies. This is basically a movie unto itself. Though it does belong with the Conjuring lore, it's not a Conjuring movie.
Yes.
And just come to it like that because it is a I mean, the cinematography, it's beautiful, the atmosphere, everything that I, as a kid of Hammer movies, was lacking, this gave me, and it made me so happy.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And the last movie that I saw attempt something like that, I I don't know how many of you know because I don't really cover horror here, but I love Rob Zombie. Like I will die on the hill that his Halloweens. I love his Halloweens. Halloween 2 is fucking wonderful. Um but yeah, so he tried something similar with Lords of Salem. That was kind of like his attempt at a throwback and respect for Rosemary's Baby. Everyone knows the wonderful late 60s film starring Mia Farrow. But he didn't quite get there. It had a little bit too much Rob Zombie in it, I think. But
Hmm.
he definitely tried to go with that feel. Everything, the set pieces, the apartment, the retro wallpaper and the hallway and stuff. He tried to kind of marry, modern and then a throwback as well. And I love Lords of Salem, but I think that was just so muddled. It was kind of a mess in the technical sense. The Nun is literally
Was.
pure perfection.
Yeah. No. And I mean, the people that he has, Demian Bichir. Mm, honey, who
Mhm.
doesn't love that man?
Yes.
And what's interesting is Corin didn't want to cast her because her sister was in the Conjuring movies, but then changed his mind after he saw her audition. And then when you start develop the lore of both these girls are descendants of Saint Lucia
Mhm.
and obviously related somehow, it makes it even better.
That is very, very true. It's kind of like an "oh shit" moment.
It is. It really is. Because when I read that, I was like, oh shit.
Mhm. But yeah, The Nun, I would gladly give a 4.5 out of 5.
Um, yeah, same here. 4.5. Extremely enjoyed this one.
There are only 2 movies that get 5s from me, and that would be obviously
Martyr.
Martyrs and then Dancer in the Dark with Bjork. Those are the only 2 films in history that get a 5 from me.
Damn.
So, none comes close though.
All right. All right.
Which, yes, I'm surprised. I am surprised that I feel that way. And like Iris just said, do not think about The Nun as, oh, it's just another stupid Conjuring movie or it's like Insidious, because I went in with that same mind frame and I could not be more wrong if I had tried.
There you go. Completely agree.
But what's next on the agenda, Iris, for the next episode?
Well, for the next episode, we are going to do The Nun 2 so we can tie everything up. And then we are also going to do the third Conjuring movie, which is The Devil Made Me Do It. And I think that's going to be interesting because this movie actually, again, has something in the real world. And what's very interesting about this is this movie, because of what happened for real with somebody killing, basically doing, they committed a murder, but they were saying the devil, I was possessed. It had nothing to do with me. The lawyer actually presented this in court, and Ed Warren
In real
was
life, y'all.
in
In
real
real
life,
life.
yes.
Yeah.
And Ed Warren was testified in court about being possessed and not, this guy not being in his right mind. So yeah, that, and then of course we're gonna go into the lore of the lock, but in the Conjuring mythos, which I think is going to be interesting.
Yeah, because everything that's been publicly known about Valak via the Lesser Key of Solomon and all of that is has pretty much been expressed in this episode.
Yeah, and there's not a lot also in the Conjuring mythos, but I think it's a real good way to kind of like sew up all of our Conjuring mess that we've been watching.
Yes, exactly. And then also we will be covering Necromantic, which
Mm.
we mentioned earlier, like I think on their Green Inferno episode, which is basically about, well, I won't spoil it, but it's about, yes, necrophilia. And
What?
there are some prolific necrophiles out there in the world. I sent Iris an article earlier today. A man from Britain was actually charged with 2 murders and the assault and abuse of over 100 corpses.
Yeah, dude, that's
Yeah. Yeah.
Ugh.
And we get to revisit Munting.
Yeah, that brings Munting into a whole new level, man.
Necromantic is how I learned about Munting. So,
Mm,
whew, fuck.
mm, mm, mm.
So
Okay.
yeah, feel free. You have your watch list, guys.
Oh my goodness. Please enjoy.
This is our gift to you.
Hmm.
Final thoughts?
Final thoughts. Both movies interesting. One is a hell of a lot better than the other, but I love how they tie in together, and can't wait to talk about the other one. And so yeah, I'm excited.
Same. Me too. What she said.
Right on. And look up Munting, people. Look up Munting.
Yeah, Urban Dictionary Munting, so you can come prepared and have a barf
Mhm.
bag ready. Because I read the definition and gagged. Actually had a visceral reaction to reading it. So
And
but
you want to know something interesting?
yeah, what?
10 years ago, we talked about this.
Did we in in the
We
Martyrs
talked about
episode?
Munting. We talked about Munting.
Oh, don't you love it when it comes full circle?
It does, man. 10 years later.
God. Whew. 10 years ago, my ex podcast host and I were guests on Iris's podcast, and we talked about Martyrs. And how in the hell did we talk about Munting off of Martyrs?
We went in a wide circle with that one because we not only talked about Martyrs, but we talked about the state of horror, and how some of us are beer drinkers and other ones have graduated.
Some
And,
have PhDs.
and some have PhDs. Some of us have badges on our little horror sash. And Munting came up. So, yeah.
I need
And
to get a
if
life.
and
I
if
need to
any
re-examine some things.
yeah, and I am going to be posting that I'm going to be posting the link on Facebook. So look for me, look for Iris Dora Saravia, and then I'm going to be posting a link. So if y'all are interested, you can listen to that old podcast and listen to Robin talk about Munting then.
I was a baby. I was a bit of a wee babe.
You were.
Oh,
Long time ago. Oof. I need some Geritol. I need to go take my Geritol.
I need to go get some milk of magnesia.
Oh my
Oh,
god.
just kidding. But that's it for today, guys. And we will see you next week.
Ciao.